I never thought a day would come when my own son would turn against me. His name is Ethan, and my wife, Vanessa, had been married to me for 12 years. Together, we built a life I thought was full of love, trust, and stability. But nothing lasts forever, and sometimes betrayal creeps in quietly until one day it slams into you with full force. It started with small changes. Vanessa began staying out later, going to work events that weren't on any calendar I recognized. I asked questions, and she always had excuses: tired, stressed, or just needing space. But there were other signs too: secretive texts, whispered phone calls, defensiveness when I tried to talk to her. I wanted to believe she was honest, but my gut told me otherwise. Then I noticed him, Michael. He worked at her office. She never mentioned him, but he started showing up in subtle ways in our lives. Calls I was never supposed to see, mentions in her stories that didn't add up. At first, I thought I was imagining it. But then, the small signs became undeniable. Vanessa was having an affair. I confronted her quietly, calmly, hoping for honesty. She didn't give it. She became defensive, angry, and insulting. Eventually, she admitted it, half-heartedly, but without real remorse. She tried to convince me it was nothing serious, that it was a mistake. I knew better. I considered leaving immediately, but our son, Ethan, was 12. I had to think about him. I thought I could manage it, handle the situation, keep the family together, maybe even salvage the marriage. I underestimated the damage that betrayal could do, not just to a spouse, but to a child. Months passed. Vanessa continued seeing Michael, but she tried to hide it more carefully. I stayed silent for a while, trying to maintain peace, trying to protect Ethan from heartbreak. I assumed he was too young to understand. But kids notice more than we give them credit for. One evening, I came home earlier than usual. I had finished work and decided to surprise Vanessa with dinner. I opened the door and heard voices in the living room. At first, I thought it was just Ethan talking, but then I realized Vanessa wasn't alone. There was laughter, a familiarity in the tone that made my chest tighten. I peeked into the living room. Vanessa was sitting close to Michael on the couch, leaning into him, laughing at something he said. My son, Ethan, was sitting between them, smiling, completely engaged with Michael. My heart stopped. "What's going on?" I asked quietly, stepping into the room. Ethan turned toward me, and his expression wasn't fear or confusion. It was fierce, protective, almost angry. "Dad," he said, standing up, "he's more of a father to me than you are." I froze. My son's words hit me like a punch to the gut. I opened my mouth to respond, to explain, to defend myself. But what could I say? I had tried to be patient, to forgive, to maintain the family for him. Yet here he was, defending the man who had invaded our marriage, who had betrayed me, who had undermined my role as his father. Vanessa looked smug, almost triumphant, as if my son's loyalty had been secured. Michael smiled politely, but didn't say a word. He knew his presence alone was enough to provoke me. I took a deep breath. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I simply said, calmly but firmly, "Ethan, I'm your father. I love you. And nothing will ever change that. But I won't be in a house where lies and betrayal are celebrated as normal. I need to think about what's best for both of you, and for myself." That night, I packed a bag. I didn't make a scene, I didn't scream, I didn't threaten. I took my essentials, a few items for Ethan, and left the house quietly. I didn't know if he would come with me, if he would side with me, but I couldn't stay in a home where my authority, my role, and my integrity were being undermined. The next day, I sat down with Ethan. I explained gently that adults sometimes make terrible mistakes, and that betrayal doesn't define love, but it does define boundaries. I told him I understood he was confused, that he loved both Vanessa and Michael, but that he also needed to recognize that loyalty to the wrong person can hurt him in the long run. Over time, Ethan began to understand. He saw that Michael's influence was manipulative, that Vanessa's choices had consequences, and that the stability and respect he needed could not come from a household built on deceit. Slowly, he started to reconnect with me, not as a lecture, not as punishment, but as a father guiding his son toward truth, integrity, and self-respect. Vanessa and Michael tried to contact me, tried to pull Ethan back, tried to convince him that I was overreacting. But I had already learned an important lesson. Betrayal doesn't just affect the spouse. It affects children, it affects relationships, and it forces you to act decisively. You can't fix everything, and sometimes walking away is the only way to protect what truly matters. In the months and years that followed, I rebuilt my life with Ethan. We found a new home, a new rhythm, and a relationship stronger than I had ever imagined possible. My son learned about trust, respect, and integrity, not just from my words, but from my actions. And Vanessa? She faced the consequences of her choices, not through revenge, but through the absence of the life she tried to control. The day my son yelled, defending my wife's lover, remains burned into my memory. It hurt in ways I can't describe, but it also sparked a turning point. It forced me to act, to reclaim my dignity, to protect my child from being caught in a web of betrayal. And ultimately, it taught both of us that true love, respect, and fatherhood aren't just about presence. They're about honesty, integrity, and making the right choices even when it's hard. Looking back, that moment, the scream, the betrayal, the heartbreak, was the beginning of our real journey. Ethan and I came out stronger, closer, and more resilient. We learned that even in the deepest betrayal, you can find a way to rebuild, to heal, and to reclaim what's truly important: family, trust, and self-respect.